according to this.
Apple time.
30 seconds, actually. We'll go by that.
I claimed Counselor Bounds as a dependent this year, just so you know. Does the municipal association put out a thing at the end of the legislative year of what passed and what didn't pass? Okay.
That'll probably come out late July, 1st of August.
Okay. What happened with COLA, by the way, for retirees?
It's in the Senate right now. It passed the House to do it when people retired. Years on the first 50,000.
Good evening. The time is 7 o'clock, and we'll call to order the April 22nd Laconia City Council meeting held here at the Armin A. Baldick City Council Chambers. And as always, we will start with the salute to the flag, and that will be led by Councilor Bruce Cheney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will do we'll have our recording secretary, Cheryl Hebert, also the city clerk, call the roll, please.
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Bounds?
Here.
Counselor Littman?
Present.
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Hosmer?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamel?
Present. And also in attendance tonight at the table is City Manager Scott Myers and Finance Director Glenn Smith. There are no city proclamations tonight, and we'll go on to the acceptance of the minutes, I'm sorry. The minutes were distributed on April 8th, is it? 10th. April 10th, and there was one change submitted. The clerk redistributed the minutes on Thursday, April 11th. And is there any other changes to the minutes that need to be done? Okay, if not, then we'll accept the minutes as they stand at this point. Okay, there is there are two consent actions tonight. One is temporary traffic order 2019-04, 4th of July parade. And this is something that's been going on for many years now. There was a change a couple years ago, Scott, where it leaves from the high school now instead of Wyatt Park.
Correct.
Okay, and that was the same way last year.
Last year was slightly different because we had the parade in conjunction with the 125th, and I believe it was earlier in the day, and obviously not on the 4th of July. So, but this would have been similar traffic order for what was done the year before that.
Okay, very good. So, the proposed motion would be to approve traffic order 2019-4, 4th of July parade to be held on July 4th, 2019 from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. We have Mark Haynes doing the primary motion and Councilor Hosmer seconding that motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise a hand. 6 people in acceptance of that motion, and the motion passes. Okay, also on the consent calendar is a request to approve a temporary traffic order 2019-5, the Winnie Fishing Derby and to waive all fees associated with this event. This is another event that's been happening for many, many years now, and there's no changes to that, Scott? Okay, so there should be a motion here to approve the temporary traffic order 2019-5 for the Winnie Fishing Derby as presented and to waive city fees associated with this event. Counselor Hosmer makes that motion, seconded by Counselor Bounds.
That's my name.
Any discussion on it? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, 6 councilors, and it approves that. Also, I want to make a quick appointment tonight. That'll be my first chance to do one. I'd like to appoint Counselor Cheney just for tonight's meeting to keep a close eye on Counselor Bounce to make sure he is very close to the mic while the meeting is going on. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
I think we should get one for your lapel, right? Wireless and.
Just to be difficult.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to citizens' comments for matters not on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that would like to comment on anything that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, there doesn't seem to be anybody. There are no interviews. We have one nomination, and that is for Dave Stamps. Where is it? Okay, now does Dave Stamps is seeking reappointment as a member of the Highway Safety Commission for a 3-year term expiring at the end of March 2022. Did I have that motion? Okay, motion made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Littman. Is there any discussion?
Oh, no discussion.
Okay. All those in favor, raise a hand. Okay, 6 councilors approves the nomination. Okay, also tonight, before we go too much further, probably wondering why Mayor Ed Engler is not here tonight. Mayor Engler had a very serious illness that he's been trying to overcome, and it seems to be he is. He is currently at Dartmouth Hitchcock, where he is coping with a particular potent gastrointestinal infection. He's been hospitalized since April 10th, and the mayor is expected to be returning home sometime this week, and I got notice today that he'll be on his way back home on Wednesday. I think he'll still need some recuperation time. He's very weak, but he's doing much better. He just started eating some whole food for a change. It's been almost 3 weeks. I believe I can say that we as a council wish him well and a speedy recovery from this council and probably the whole city. So we wish you back in this chair soon, Mayor. Okay. So there are no communications I can see. And we'll move on to public hearings. We were supposed to have a public hearing on resolutions 2019-04 for tonight, but due to problems with getting it publicized, we are not going to do that public hearing tonight. And I believe we'll reschedule that to the next meeting, Scott?
We will re-notice, meaning re-advertise it, and then we'll be ready to roll to have it on the agenda for May 13th, yes.
Okay, very good. There are no presentations, and the mayor's report, I guess that was just what I stated about our mayor. So we'll move on to committee reports, and I believe tonight we had a committee report with Public Works, and that is Councilor Bounds as the chair. I'll ask him to present that to the council, please.
I don't know if all of you have gotten the recommendations from staff with respect to the criteria to be used for as-is roads. But if you haven't got them, we'll get them to you quickly with respect to this matter. Wes Anderson did a presentation tonight with respect to as-is roads. It was the recommendation of the committee unanimously to move to adopt those criteria and move it forward to the council. However, some committee members expressed that they wanted an opportunity to review the criteria in a little more depth. That would also give members of the council an opportunity to review the as-is criteria in a little more depth. So what we've done is a recommendation to adopt them so we don't have to have another subcommittee meeting, and table it for 2 weeks until the May 13th meeting for consideration. And that doesn't mean that we have to take it up on May 13th. If people have questions, please, we just want to get this process going so that we can put some money in the budget for developing the as-is roads, start developing the as-is roads for this budget cycle. It's going to be a long, slow process, 2, 3, maybe 4 years in increments as we adopt the as-is roads are proposed. And there are currently 31 roads proposed. Everybody will get that list if you don't have them now. There will be further consideration of the 15 or so roads remaining in terms of how we're going to approach it, whether they're going to be emergency lanes, whether they're going to be as-is, or whether we're just not going to accept them at all. And that will come through the cycle beginning in July of this year once we've finished with the budget. So that's the report of the committee. I would make a motion first to adopt the criteria as submitted by staff. I make that motion.
Okay, Dave makes the motion. Is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Seconded by Councilor Mark Haynes. Any discussion on that? Yes.
So just clarifying that this motion and vote is to just put it on the table, not to
That's correct.
adopt it as something to implement at this juncture.
That's right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
That's to give everybody time to take a look at this thing, because we're planning this is, radical stuff.
And I think it was stated at the meeting at 6, Scott, that would take care of a large majority of our roads if adopted.
Yeah, I think originally we were in the low 50-something of roads that had some challenges. Some of those have been emergency lanes. This would be about 31, I believe, roads of the remaining 40-something. This ties back into the presentation we had with Attorney Carrie Roman and our Public Works Director, Wes Anderson, back in the fall. And you had some folks from the Methodist campground area who came and spoke in favor of it. We had done a presentation with those particular streets down in the Weirs Community Center, also back in the fall somewhere, and had a good turnout and had good response, and a couple of those members spoke. So the criteria were first published in your council packet. I believe it was at the March 11th meeting. That's when the council referred it to the Public Works Committee. So we haven't changed that criteria other than a little bit of maybe technical punctuation or spelling or something, but we will get you a copy of that criteria by email out tomorrow. We'll get everybody a list of the streets to go with it. We'll place it on the agenda for the 13th. If you want to take action, you can. They can still amend it at that point if that's the will of the council. You could table it and bring it up at a later time. So you've got full array of options available to you.
Okay. Council Baum, when that comes back to the city council, were you planning on having another committee meeting on this, or no?
I was not planning on it. If it's the will of the council that we do another committee meeting, I'm more than willing to do that. But the game plan that I had was that we would move to adopt the criteria, give everybody some time to look at it. If there's questions on May 13th from any council members, and you feel that another committee meeting is necessary, I'm more than willing to do that. But I'm not planning now to do a committee meeting prior to the 13th on basically what we fully discussed. I expect we'll have opinions. Please express them. If there's issue, the way it's presented right now, we're going to have plenty of opportunity to discuss it, disagree about it, agree about it, whatever. So.
Okay, very good. So motion's been made by Counsel Bound, seconded by Counselor Haynes. All those in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, motion passes by 6-0.
Okay, now I move to table it until the May 13th meeting, or continue it. What do you call it? Table or continue?
We can table it to the 13th, yes.
Okay, I move to table it to the May 13th hearing.
Counselor Brown makes a motion to table it till the 13th, is it May 13th, you said?
Yes.
May 13th meeting?
I'll second.
Seconded by Counselor Haynes. All those in favor, raise a hand. Motion passes. Okay. All right, liaison reports. Is there anybody that has a liaison report for this evening? Okay.
I just want to note that the city manager in his project updates report and monthly economic developments reports does a pretty good job of outlining where we're at in terms of the pending changes to the zoning ordinance. And as it is, we'll have a hearing at the first meeting in May. Yeah. And that second amendment will come before the planning board at that time, recommending a commercial zone, forget the name of it, what do we call it? Never mind.
You talking about the performance zone?
Yeah, not the performance zone, the commercial union, where's Dean when I need him?
He's right here.
Huh?
Urban commercial.
Urban commercial.
There you go.
Thank you. Urban commercial, and that's gonna run from Belmont right up to, I keep saying this, McIntyre Circle, although the big banana ain't there anymore, right up to Shaw's, and then discrete areas at the state school property. And the planning board will vote to either recommend that or not recommend it at the next hearing at the planning board, and hopefully send it on to the council for consideration and adoption. So we're not far away from adopting this really inventive, creative approach to zoning in the city of Laconia.
All right, thank you, Dave. Okay, so next on the agenda, we're going to be going to citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. These would be comments on something that is on tonight's agenda. Is there anybody that would like to do that? Seeing none, we will move on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So included in your agenda packet for tonight, you have two reports. I'll start first on the project updates. And for any of you who have driven any corner of the city, we're probably there in the road, in the sidewalk, in your way, and we're going to continue to be there for a while. So to kind of break that down a little bit, what's happening right here at Main Street Court and Union Ave is a water project that is wrapping up. It was delayed a little bit by a couple of rainy days. I believe we're going to be wrapped up by Wednesday or maybe no later than Thursday of this week, and we'll be out of that intersection for the foreseeable future. That crew will then move down and start working on Court Street to do the final drainage tie-ins, the final base pavement, the final paving of the section of Court Street we were working on last year, and then be working in some of the side streets, sidewalks, the tie-ins, that type of stuff. And that'll be going on until that's complete, which we're probably targeting around the 1st of July. And then that crew will continue right on to what we're calling Phase 2 of Court Street, which is from Fair Street on down in front of Cross Insurance and Cumberland Farms, and working its way down to the intersection. So even though we're going to be out of the Main Street intersection in a couple of days, we will be on Court Street shortly thereafter and for the remainder of this construction season. The work that is going on Main Street from the senior housing, Sunrise Towers, down to Busy Corner, right now is some final work being done by Liberty Utilities on gas work, and they are doing their utility work in advance of us doing a reconstruction of that road, not this season, but in a future construction season. So I believe they are almost wrapped up with the detour that's being caused there by Busy Corner. The Messer Street work, the gas company was in there as well. They, for the most part, I believe, have wrapped up. The water department, once they're through in the intersection here, will be moving over to be doing the water main replacement on Messer Street shortly, coming up probably in another week or so, maybe the 1st of May. And then at that point, the city will be in there doing the drainage work, which tied into the drainage work that we completed with the drawdown of the lake last year underneath the railroad bridge and getting that portion done. This will be the remainder, and we're probably in there till somewhere in mid-July, I believe, as a target date. And then we are also in Lakeport, in that intersection. That heavy work in the intersection is going to continue for a couple of more weeks, but then we'll be working down Union Ave towards Stark Street. We're not going to get all the way there this construction season, but we will be in that area and working from now until November. We appreciate the public's patience. There's a lot going on. I think it will get lessened a little bit, especially once we're out of this intersection here on the water project and we get out of the intersection in Lakeport Square, but we've still got a couple of weeks to go on that. We are trying everything we do to keep access to all businesses, encourage people that, especially with the disruption of the traffic, we would ask people to make an extra effort to support the local businesses that are impacted on these routes, because it's just a necessary item of the construction project, and no matter what we do, there is going to be some impact. So we certainly appreciate the public's indulgence, but also encourage folks to support those businesses there as well. And again, we listen to feedback, comments, where the detours go. We try to make every effort to work through that. As I've said, we're going to be in these roads basically all summer long. We are going to pull back a little bit during Motorcycle Week because of the volume of traffic. We'll pull back over the 4th of July weekend, those days, for the volume of traffic. But there's no way that we can accomplish what we need to accomplish by being out of those roadways in the summertime. So where we do pull back a little bit, we've got some paving projects that'll be occurring on some secondary roads, side streets. We are engineering right now the hardscape work for the signalized crosswalks, which was talked about and money was put away last year. So that work will start probably happening in the summertime, and in June and July when we back off a couple of these main routes. We'll be working on the ADA compliance hardscaping for those crosswalks at the intersection, so that they all have the tip downs, they all have the chirps and the countdown type of thing to them, with the intent that those will be installed and completed by the end of this construction season as well, in conjunction with the projects that we're working on. On the irrigation end, we are still planning on doing Memorial Park softball field, and the council voted to approve the Wyatt Park at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. Both of those will be scheduled. We are doing some infield work with some heavy equipment on the softball field. It makes sense to take care of that first and not be compacting the irrigation line, so irrigation would be going on after that. The Bond Beach Drainage Project, which was approved in the budget last year, is out to bid right now. Bids close this coming Friday, and we anticipate, the expectation is that work is going to be started and completed very soon before this beach season, so that it's in place for that as well. Those are the key items on the projects update. Maybe I'll stop there because I've been saying a lot, and see if there's any questions before I go on to the economic development report.
I have a question, Scott. I sent an email last week about the detour there at Mechanic Street and Union Avenue, where I guess people, I don't want to say were forced, but kind of directed to go on Mechanic instead of being able to go down to the businesses further down, and asked that maybe a sign that says businesses open ahead or whatever. I don't think that happened today. I think it was still the same setup as the person detouring everybody down Mechanic. Can you kind of fill us in on what's happening there?
Yeah, we've had conversations on as Friday, and then another communication this morning. So the intent is, at that point, we would like the majority of traffic to go off onto Mechanic Street, because that road is set up to handle the volume of traffic and the truck traffic. The other option is to go much further down onto Laurel Street, and that street is just not set up for that turn. And then you've got traffic here and another line of traffic trying to feed in. But first and foremost, that street is not set up for that volume of traffic. I have made it very clear, including with the Public Works Director and including the president of Busby Construction, that flaggers and the crews there need to be as accommodating as possible for doing so, that if somebody pulls up and can see the painting store with the pottery and seeing the coffee shops and seeing something else, that they're not forced to go around and do a detour to go all the way around in order to come back in the other direction. We are keeping the one-way traffic going from Lakeport and down Union Avenue, but it's the, I guess it's the northbound traffic that is being detoured. So that has been stressed multiple times last week and again today at all levels, that our approach is to support as much as possible. And if somebody tries to buck the system, as people have been known to do, and say, I'll just go through and jump through, they're not getting through that intersection. It's there with a police officer, and they'll be turned around. So someone is not going to be able to game and jump the line and try to save a minute or two. But we truly do want to be in a spot where we are making those businesses as accessible, and that's the directions I've given.